Hello and welcome to Most Unwanted and X-Files podcast. This is the postseason content. Oh, I'm Chex. I'm joined by Luke. Oh,
we do this every series, don't we? We never remember.
You know what it is? Postseason content is a bit weird because like you've got a formula. You've got a formula in your head. You know what you're doing in all the other seasons, and then that's taken away from you, and it's like taking away my blanket. It's like taking away my walking stick. What am I supposed to do?
Well, yeah, you just have to. You have to adapt and survive, I guess.
Adapt and survive. We will. Postseason content, Luke. We're gonna look at the season 6 of the X-Files.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, season 6. What a series that was.
What a season! But before we get into that, just have a look. It's been a few weeks since we've recorded. It's been a crazy few weeks. The world has changed quite a bit. It feels like we've got it feels weird having like a record, should I say, of like our reactions to world events, because like I feel like we have these conversations way more than I expected when we first started doing this podcast. Things that happen in the world.
That's the thing. Like we literally have our live like sort of updates on how we handled a pandemic kicking off, and now literally it's happening while there's a war kicking off as well. It's just unbelievable. Like that we're in these situations, I guess. Absolutely
horrific scenes. I mean. Yeah. We did have a little talk off air as to we don't want to. This is an entertainment podcast at the end of the day, so people don't tune into this to sort of be bummed down by world events, and I understand that, but like I felt like we couldn't do this podcast and not mention what's going on around the world. So I feel like I can speak for both of us. By all means, interrupt me if I'm wrong, but to just send our support to the horrors that are going on in Ukraine at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the stories coming out of Ukraine of like, was it Spider Island? Was it?
Yeah. And the island in the Black Sea, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, and just Ukrainian citizens in general, just the bravery and courage that country is showing right now. It's inspiring, and it shouldn't have to be. We shouldn't have to hear stories like this.
No, in 2022, you don't expect a war like this to be kicking off. So yeah, it's really sad to hear about. But again, it's nice to see that everyone is condemning like this. You know what I mean? Like in the strongest possible way. What am I trying to say here? I don't want to be insensitive, if you know what I mean. Like,
it's a tough situation to talk about.
But it's nice to see that people are rallying behind so much like badness like this. Although again, we shouldn't need to see this level of like terror basically to require that. So, but again, it is nice to see that people aren't standing up, aren't just like sitting down for it basically.
Yeah, and if as I say, just to reiterate, our hearts go out to everyone involved, and that's people of Ukraine. I think we do have. I think the last time I checked, we have had people from Ukraine listen to this podcast. Mm-hmm. So, people of Ukraine and people around the world with loved ones and family and friends in Ukraine. At the place that I work for Popular Beer Company Carlsberg. Mm-hmm. And we've got 3 breweries in Ukraine, which have all had to be shut down. And colleagues' safety is being spoken about. So it's affecting a lot of people. And our thoughts go out to everyone involved.
It shows you how connected the world actually is, because it's the same with us. Like our development team for the company I work for is based in Ukraine. They're based in Kiev. So literally this is all like not at the end of the day, business does not matter when this situation's kicking off. But yeah, it just shows you how connected the world is. That like I've seen some people say, "Oh, how does this matter to us?" It's like everything matters. Like any change around the world is going to matter to you. So like, yeah, it is worth keeping up on it, I guess. But yeah. But yeah, I don't know what else we could sort of say about this at the moment.
No, I mean, we are not. Once again, it's. I wanted to mention it. I wanted to say something about it. I always say, it makes no difference how small your platform is. If you've got a platform, you need to use that platform responsibly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like we need to. But like in the grand scheme of things, there's not a lot we can do apart from hopefully provide maybe 10-15 minutes of respite from thinking about it. Yeah. And if we can do that, I feel like we've done our job. So with that in mind, let's get into our postseason content.
Yeah.
This week we are looking into season review of X-Files season 6.
Series 6.
So we've mentioned this throughout this season, but I'd kind of like to just reiterate, what was your feelings going into this season?
I was expecting a drop in quality, if I'll be completely honest. The way, I guess it's, again, expectations that we've been told that there is a drop in quality eventually in the X-Files. And because it's been on such a high, I guess I'm kind of always this probably speaks to me as a person. I'm always expecting it to suddenly get worse.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, this is definitely going to be the series where we lose a bit of the quality. And this sounds like a bit of a running joke now because we've probably said this for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 series. This is my favorite series so far. It was really, really good.
I very, very much of the same opinion. I don't know why I don't know why I specifically picked out this season as the one I thought would be the drop off. I think it was because last season was so good. I was like, well, it's not gonna be that season. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, and then, same feeling. Yeah.
I don't know whether it has the standout episodes that last season had. But I think as a whole, it's the strongest. I feel like there's very few duds in this one. And I just enjoyed the overall arc. But I feel like the lows are probably a little bit lower. I don't know, mate. It's tough. It's tough to say.
I found it as like a sort of a flat. So I only really had, because I've been looking through the scores that I gave stuff. I only really have 2. Maybe 3 episodes where I rated them like below a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else,
that's good. That's good going.
Everything else is like pretty much an 8 or higher. It's such a highlight bar with this series, and again, like you said, there's no like episodes where I'm like, oh, that's the greatest episode of the X-Files. Like, there's some really good episodes in this series.
Yeah.
But because the quality is so consistently good, it just makes this series feel, just like as a whole, brilliant. Like there's not a lot I can say bad about this series.
I think, I do want to sort of touch upon some of our like favorite episodes and maybe some of like the episodes we didn't like quite as much. But I do want to touch upon, I think, and I've said this from the last couple of seasons now, to be honest, I think X-Files is the best when it takes risks. And I really like the X-Files as a formula works. It really works. I mean, let's be honest. Look, it's a hit show, and it has been for decades. So we know it works. And you can rest on your laurels a little bit. You can sort of take the easy route of just doing the same thing over and over again. And I feel like X-Files really works when it does something different, when it plays around with the way it's filmed, with the narrative, with even the genre of the episodes sometimes. And I really like that. And I feel like this series makes the most of that. I felt like, you know how you get sometimes, like, you get like these anthologies of like comics where it's like different artists and different writers for each chapter, for each issue, if you like, and then they make
one
big
exactly,
book. Sometimes it felt more like this for this season than any others. Like, I know they've got different writers and whatnot, but it really did feel like from episode to episode there was something different, a different feel to it, a different vibe, but it all stayed true to the characters. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, we see a lot of input now from regular members of the cast as well. So like David Duchovny's getting involved right in, and there's a lot more like input from that kind of stuff, and there's a lot more variety in the episodes. So like there's a lot in this series that play with like the perceptions of people. So like obviously we had stuff like Ghosts That Stole Christmas, where it's playing with the perceptions of Mulder and Scully. Same with Field Trip as well, which had a similar kind of playing with what they think is going on and stuff like that. We also
not taking it so literally, almost like wow, that's tough to say. An analogy of an episode. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we get that kind of story. Then you flip over to the other side of the series where you get like we had Triangle, which felt the only way I could describe it is kind of like an Elseworld story told in. Do you know like I don't know if anybody knows about like comics and stuff. So like DC Comics, like the people who did Batman, do something called Elseworlds, where it's Batman if I don't know he'd been in I'm trying to think of an example now. If he was in the Victorian era or something like that, so it's like a completely different. So with Triangle, you get to see what Mulder and Scully would be like if they were in World War II, and you get this kind of like different feel from that episode, completely from some other ones. I feel like a lot of them played with that kind of like perception of things. This series,
I think Triangle's a really fascinating subject point. Because Triangle, if you look at it from, I mean, that was some great points about like story base, but even if you look at it from a visual standpoint, you compare Triangle to something like Arcadia. Is that the one where they're in their own little street, their estate?
Yeah.
Just very different visually, filmed very differently. The mood's very different throughout, and but it keeps you on your toes. It keeps it interesting. It keeps it exciting, and I really like that. Whilst, you can have shows that do this and it doesn't work because they don't stay true to the characters. But this does. It really feels like you come away from each episode, regardless of how crazy it is, knowing a little bit more about Mulder and Scully, which is
that's the thing.
What makes it work.
It just takes them and puts them in a new environment, even if the environment is so utterly alien to like what they've been involved with before. So like I said, it's sort of a time travel kind of story, or this like one where they're sort of played with their perceptions. As well, we have like episodes like Dreamland that not only play with like perceptions, but where there's changes to the status quo, I guess, going forward.
Which was Dreamland again?
So Dreamland was the one where Mulder swaps bodies with Morris Fletcher.
Yes.
So like, obviously it resets at the end of that episode, but going forward from that point, we have lasting effects. They're not massive effects in the series, but even like now we're seeing like Monster of the Weeks become part of the bigger story as well, or they leave little relics in it from those.
Which we've been calling for ages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's one thing I don't think they did well in the first few seasons, which is I wanted to see more recurring characters. I wanted to see more consequences from episode to episode. And I feel like this season they have that.
I feel like maybe that's our sort of Marvel show, like looking for references kind of stuff, bleeding into it, because that's kind of like what modern TV is now. There's a lot of like, especially when it's in a shared universe. Sure.
It's definitely a time thing because, and then again, I don't know. Buffy was right up there with doing like starting that. And that's the one I always compare X-Files to. They feel very similar to me. With I think maybe the Monster of the Week type thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like before, it kind of felt like the first few series, these Monster of the Weeks were self-contained. You're never even going to get a mention about like what happened in it. Whereas now we literally get characters popping back up, completely unrelated to the current plot. So you get this nice little reference that, again, for long-time fans is nice. Like, imagine now if you start seeing, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a way to write it in. This is terrible. This wouldn't be in an episode, I don't think. But like, if they were like somebody like going through the accolades that the X-Files have done, and you see all the case files of like what's his name, the guy from Squeeze, and then you see the guy from, for all these different cases they've done. Like, if they're all referenced, you're like, oh, remember that one. It's kind of like at this point, it's kind of like a victory lap. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a payoff for people.
Yeah, exactly.
For people who enjoy the show.
Yeah,
What's some of
exactly.
your highlights of this season then? If you had to choose just a few.
So there's quite a few highlights, to be fair, of this series. So yeah, some of the ones I just mentioned. I thought Drive was particularly strong. And also it brought up that while I'm talking about Drive, this series tended to have a few more big names like we've seen. So obviously Bryan Cranston was in that episode. We had Bruce Campbell in episode as well. So there's a lot of more like Hollywood like stars coming into it now. Whereas before it was just TV actors, I guess. But yeah, Drive is definitely a highlight. Just that sort of self-contained story, but just it was just a really interesting story. I think at the time we said that the science around it is plausible. The story is really intense. We get this like sort of, it's kind of like a bottle episode on the move. Really.
Yeah.
Some of our highlights. I mean, The Unnatural, I think is definitely, I gave it a 10. It's the only one this series that's got a 10. Or this like season has got a 10, so to say, for me. And I feel like that was a definite highlight. It was probably one of the funniest episodes, and just had this like nice heartwarming story to it. And knowing that David Duchovny like wrote it, it's sort of like a passion project as well. It sort of adds to the fact that it feels like a collaborative effort from everyone involved.
For sure.
How about yourself?
I really, it's so tough to choose favorite episodes. I've got to be honest. From this, I think in general, I like the direction that the whole show is going in with again, repeating myself, but trying different things. I think Triangle is a really good example of that. To be honest, I thought, not necessarily my favorite episode either. I'm not saying it's like up top of my list, but I like that's what I want. That's what I want from the show, and that's what I enjoy most from the show. Just the difference that it makes, like not going into something and being pleasantly surprised by, okay, this is what we're doing for this next 40 minutes. We're gonna take you down a road we've not been down before.
And we've got some nice camera cuts as well during that. Like, I remember the shot where is it Moonbathers and Scully are searching for Mulder, and they sort of come together, but they're in two different times.
Yeah, just great, really, really great. But like if I'm talking about highlights, the one that pops into my head straight away is Monday. I thoroughly enjoyed Monday. But that's kind of just plays into me. Like, that's like they've gone, oh, shall we write an episode for checks? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
a time loop one.
They're always going to get me. So, but like, I just thought they did it really well. Like, it's so easy to get wrong, and I thought they didn't. I thought they nailed it. So yeah, I thought that they're some of my highlights. But highs aren't without the lows. Then there was some lowlights. Not many. And to be fair, I'd probably say the fewest that we've seen from a season, if I can be so bold.
Definitely,
Let's keep it nice. Let's keep the ratio nice. Give me one of your lowlights from this season.
I feel like one of our lowlights is probably going to be the same. I think we both thought Alpha was fairly weak. I feel like it felt like it's not a bad episode at all. It's not bad, really. It just feels very basic. So at this stage of the game, like every episode has some like interesting quirk about it. Like all the ones we spoke about have something interesting about them. Even if it's a simple story, it's like quite like Drive. It's told well. The acting is brilliant in it. Or if you get one with an interesting like quirk to it, so like Triangle. They've all got these different like reasons to exist, whereas Alpha kind of just feels like, oh, we need a Monster of the Week story. Can you write one? and it's just this basic story about a dog man. You know what I mean? Like,
it feels very season 1 for sure.
Exactly, yeah. That's the thing, and especially now, like when we're in series 6, it's like you can do better than this, really. But again, maybe we just need a sort of break from all the brilliant episodes, and just have a week where it's not so great.
It's interesting you say that, because I think my low light is Biogenesis, and I think it's because
the finale,
yeah, and I think again, not saying it's the worst episode in the world, but I think after such a strong season, I thought the strength of the season made it all the more disappointing. Does that make sense? So
yeah, I can completely understand that, to be honest. Now,
I wanted more closure. I wanted something different, and I felt like we just got the same kind of sort of template finale for X-Files. And for one thing, you don't want X-Files to be as templates. Do you know what I mean?
100%, yeah.
And so again, it was fine, but looking back, that leaves like a bitter taste in my mouth, that finale does. So I think that certainly counts towards one of my low lights.
But it does depend as well, though, on like how the new series starts. Like, I mean, it's not great on its own. So imagine the next 2 episodes are amazing. Then it sort of lifts it up, because we'll have to see.
That would be nice, and I would like that. But back to the positives. I mean, what a season! And I'll tell you something. If this season succeeds in anything, it's making me look forward to the next season. Like, how are we not bored by this already? Like, this was a big task for us to undertake. 10 seasons, 11 seasons, films, God knows what else of this show, and we thought, you know what? It's one of the classics. It's one that we never got round to. Let's do this. And 7 seasons in, and I'm still not bored. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do next.
Yeah, exactly. And they've managed to reset the story a few times now. So now we've lost the syndicate. All of the stuff that we were used to before is all gone. So now it's like completely new, new stories to follow. So it should be interesting.
I feel like you're delving way too close to prediction territory here, Luke. So we're going to save all that chat for our prediction episode in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
Next week, we will be looking at our top 5 episodes of X-Files as a whole, up until this point, of course, which is becoming more and more difficult. So I'm going to have to go away and work on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed I can try and figure it out. But how are we supposed to put all of these episodes into 5? I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah, it is getting a struggle now. There's a lot in the list to try and filter down, but we'll give it a go.
We certainly will. So yeah, join us next week and get in touch with us. There was something I want to mention just before we go.
Okay.
Right. I'm dropping this on you, Luke, so you're going to get Luke's live reaction here, folks. The beginning of this season, we decided to change up the format of the show a little bit, make it a little bit punchier, try and get episodes sort of around the hour mark. And I think it's actually worked really well. I think I've enjoyed the length of the episodes that we've got. I think it flows better.
Yeah.
And for most people that I've heard talk about the show, that they're enjoying it as well. However, we did say one of the sacrifices we made was, you know what? Let's cut like feedback and like sort of communications with fans of the show, and we'll do them in mailbag episodes. And we never got round to them.
We didn't, yeah.
Because we never had to, it was always like, never had time to do them. And by the time we had to do them, everything was like talking about episodes from like 10 episodes ago, 11 episodes ago, and it just didn't work. I propose to you right now on air, maybe not the exact same as it used to be. I think we bring Check's Twitter corner back for next season.
I feel like we do need some kind of correspondence back in there. So we'll have to figure out how best to do it. But yeah, I do want to get back to involving people again in the episode
for sure. We did intend to this season, and it just didn't work out. So next season, I reckon a nice, quick, punchy communication. Check's Twitter corner section. I reckon we can sort that out. Just didn't work for us this season. So, But apart from that, let us know. Get in touch with us on Twitter, Most Unwanted Pod, at Most Unwanted Pod, should I say. Tell us what your favourite episodes were from this season, and what you thought of the season as a whole. And next week we will be talking about our 5 favourite episodes. I know a lot of people like to get involved in that one as well. So if any changes are made from the last time you got in touch with us, let us know. But apart from that, until next week, see you later.